This is David Stark from Watch or Pass, and I'm dressed for the beach. I've got my pineapple shirt, I've got my blue background, because I'm ready to talk about the lovely beach film Old by M. Night Shyamalan. It's a lovely vacation film where this family goes to the beach and finds out that they and everyone else with them are aging rapidly. And as you'd expect, this causes some problems for them. So they spend their time trying to figure out what's going on, how they can stop it, and whatnot. And this is probably a good point for me to tell you that there will be spoilers in this review. If you don't want any spoilers, check out the website watcherpass.com. It's where I post my spoiler-free reviews. They're much more vague. They tend to be more general, so you can check that out and then go see the film, or you can watch the film and then just come back here. Or if you don't care about spoilers, let's go, because let's talk about the film, talk about some of the story elements, and then we'll talk about the ending. So you've been warned. If you want to preserve your M. Night Shyamalan twist, stop watching now. But if you want to keep going, let's go. So the film has this very mysterious setup, and so I'm not going to talk too much about it. I'm just going to kind of talk about those and the things that I liked and I didn't like about the movie. So I'm going to go about 4 things I liked about the film, 3 things I didn't really like about the film, and then we'll talk a little bit about the ending. So the first thing I liked is the setting, which includes a lot of little small touches, but in general, the setting is on this beautiful idyllic beach, and so it's a small setting, right? I think this film looked like it was filmed during COVID. Some of the behind the scenes shots have M. Night Shyamalan in a mask, so it's a really smart setup for a horror film and a film during COVID. You've got this isolated beach, you've got this very limited cast, but the beach itself is just beautiful. It looks very otherworldly, and I think that's kind of what this film is going for. You've got the strange, these giant rocks surrounding the beach. You've got some it's kind of this half moon secluded place. It's a really great setting for something sinister to happen and something so beautiful, which I really liked. And then there's also a lot of small touches that help with the setting, including what you'll notice is the trees around the beach. If you get farther out, they're beautiful and green, but as you get closer to the beach, they look aged and old and twisted, and it's a very subtle touch because it's not really brought up, but if you look in some of the panning shots, you can see that as the trees get closer to the beach, they become more and more aged and dead. And also a little setting touch that was nice is the music, especially when they're going to the beach. That has this, I don't know if it was intentional or maybe this was just me projecting, but it sounds like the percussion in the song sounds like a ticking clock, like a rapidly ticking clock. So it's a nice little kind of hint at what's going to happen. The second thing I love are the kids. So part of this film is you've got these people aging rapidly, and so the adults, they tend to act the way that they always do. They just get a little bit older, but the kids are really interesting because they start off as young kids, but their bodies age rapidly, but their minds don't. So you have these characters that kind of start off as these adorable kids saying, doing silly things, and then as they get older, their bodies change, but their minds still stay the same. And so there's some really fun touches where, like, you've got these 50-year-old kids eventually, and they say, like, we should go do this, but first let's build a sandcastle, and they go and build a sandcastle, which I thought was like a nice little touch. It's really interesting to see these kind of adult themes and body changes kind of projected down into what a kid would say. There's a really great line where one of the kids says, like, I'm seeing more colors, my body is seeing more colors than it used to, or something like that, which I thought was a really interesting way to kind of describe puberty and changes in your body. The third thing I really liked is the cinematography, and it's kind of a mixed bag. I'll go into some of the things I didn't like about it, but in general, there's some very interesting shots. You've got some beautiful sweeping shots of the beach. You've got some very artful shots, a lot of nice one shots where Shyamalan will kind of pan around the different characters and everyone's doing something different, or they're having a conversation, and you kind of see each person one at a time as this conversation goes along. There's some very, very good cinematography in this film, and it really kind of helps to emphasize the setting and the overall experience that these people are going through. And the last thing I liked is the twist. I mean, this is a Shyamalan movie, so there is a twist, but this one felt, it wasn't like most of the twists where you've got, they find out they've actually been kidnapped and thrown into another planet where time goes faster, or they were like shrunk into like a marble-sized world and their bodies are aging more rapidly because they're smaller. Like, it's something like that. it is a crazy ending because they are aging rapidly. But I liked what what was explained for the reasoning, and I'll get into that in the ending discussion in a little bit. Things I didn't like. First, there is some very odd dialogue and some very strange delivery. I mean, some of the lines just come out of left field. I don't know if that was intentional or not, or if it was just, I mean, maybe people just forgot how to interact because this was filmed during COVID, but there were some lines that just, it felt like someone had an idea and they just jumped in with whatever they were thinking rather than following the conversation. Or some of the delivery would be in a different tone, or it wouldn't follow the kind of the conversation. You'd have someone who was just delivering a line in a very different tone or very different intonation than what was happening before. It just kind of threw me off. This is already kind of a strange setting, and to have these weird touches, it made the film feel just a little bit more unsettling, but not in a good way. The second thing that I didn't like was the cinematography. Now, I know I said I liked the cinematography already, and there's a lot of really, really beautiful shots, but then there's some very odd ones. There's some shots where there's things that are blurred for some reason, and it just didn't, it seemed off, or like where people are out of focus, and I guess you're trying to focus on the dialogue, but it made it very distracting. There was one scene where the shot was from the beach and the water was kind of lapping at the camera, which would be a nice touch, except it just made it so the camera was kind of invisible, or unviewable every few seconds, and it was very distracting. But I mean, it was an artsy shot, I guess, but I didn't really like it. And there's also these some part of the cinematography is when the people try to leave, there's this, something comes over them, their head, they get this like splitting headache, and they end up back on the beach. And the way that they did this effect, it felt like something out of I guess a lower budget horror movie. You had like these extreme expressions, and the camera would pan in and pan out. It didn't feel like something that would be in a big budget theater movie. It felt like something that I would see in maybe some more kind of indie films. And that, I mean, I don't know what they were going for that. Maybe they were just trying to like work with the limitations that they had. But that, again, there's some very odd cinematography choices in this film, and some very great cinematography. So as with a lot in this movie, it's kind of a mixed bag. Same with the dialogue. Like, I love the kids' dialogue. Some of the older dialogue just didn't really feel natural or feel right. And the last thing, the twist. And I'm going to go to that again for the ending discussion. But the twist, there were things I liked very much about it. There were some things that just kind of felt off. So the ending. All right, so here's your last chance. If you don't want to know the M. Night Shyamalan twists, stop watching. But here we go. So this beach, it doesn't really get explained why, but it's kind of a natural anomaly. There's some writings in the film about like maybe the rocks are doing this. They're like draining, causing people to age quicker, or there's something about this beach that makes it so that time moves faster. And the reason that they say that you can't escape the beach, or one of the things that's brought up, they don't ever test it, is that when you're leaving, your body is acclimating back to normal time, and it can't do it. It's like going from a high speed time to a normal time. If you try to leave at a normal pace, like a regular walking pace or running pace, your body can't adjust quick enough, and so you get these like splitting like pressure headaches, like if you were coming up from deep sea diving and you just popped up instantly. So in this beach, for some reason, time moves much quicker. And so what's happening is there is some sort of research organization that controls the resort and picks people who have certain medical conditions to come out to the beach. What you'll find out during the film is that everyone on the beach, except for the kids, which unfortunate for the kids, has some sort of strange, untreatable or debilitating medical condition. And so what will happen is when the people arrive, they get this like special cocktail that has the test medicine, and then the hotel handpicks these people to go to the beach, and they observe them as they live essentially an entire lifetime in a day, and they get to see how this medicine affected them. Did it help? Did it not help? Did they last longer than they thought they would? Well, then they have a good medicine. If they lasted for 8 hours when they probably should have died by then, hey, the medicine might work. If it didn't work, well, back to the drawing board. So it's so I liked this idea, I liked the kind of the reason behind this, but it did just kind of feel like a random assortment. Like, I guess it would be kind of weird if everyone got there and they're like, oh, we all have like kidney cancer, and like that's kind of a weird thing. So maybe that was part of it, or maybe they want to test a drug on a person, see how it works, and then test on another one. But it didn't seem like it seemed like the medical research might be tough to do if you're kind of picking random people and kind of trying to gauge what their medical condition is. It would be tough to kind of get like a trial going. But I guess for its purpose and for what it's going for, then that was okay. The weird part is how they learn that they can leave. So after like a day, there's only two kids left, and one of them got a note from one of the friends they made the first day, and the friend said something like, my uncle doesn't like the coral, and my uncle his uncle was like the leader or the owner of the resort. And so all of a sudden you see this coral, and I don't remember if it was in any of the previous shots. I don't remember it, but maybe they just didn't emphasize it, but it felt like magical coral finally appears. And so the kids, they swim out to well, they're not kids anymore at this point, they're like middle-aged adults. They swim out to the coral and go under the coral and kind of find this like passage through the coral that gets them out. You don't know that it looks like they kind of drown in the coral because one gets stuck, but you find out later that they were able to swim out, which it felt just like, I don't know, something about it. There was so much care given to some of the other elements, like why you can't leave one way. If you leave, then you get the splitting headache, and if you're swimming, then you'll drown because you kind of pass out. If you're running in the ground, you pass out, although somehow they magically got transported back onto the beach. And then if you're like climbing, you pass out and you fall. So that made this an interesting conundrum, and then apparently it's solved by you just swimming through some coral, which it just felt a little too convenient. I mean, I guess you kind of had to get someone out, but you didn't have to, right? They could have made it so that the people didn't get out. So it just felt like too convenient of an ending. And then so what happens is, after these two kids leave, they go back to the resort and kind of make a scene and give a journal that they found. Someone kind of chronicled what was happening on their day at the beach. And so the journal had some of the theories and some of the conditions that happened, and then the names and addresses of everyone that was in that group. Because what you find out also is that there are multiple trials. I think this was like trial 73. So they obviously done it many times. So the kids, now middle-aged adults, give the book to like a police officer that was staying at the resort, who dials it, and then the police get involved. They investigate. They shut this place down. So it felt like they could have done it a little differently, but Shyamalan's a master of twists, so it's very tough to kind of set up these very mysterious situations and then try to come up with some sort of real world idea. But I feel like the coral was too convenient of an escape. I think maybe it would have been better if they didn't survive, like they just kind of enjoyed their last day, or maybe they found like a bottle and put the journal in like a bottle or a bag and tried to get that out of there, because presumably that would be able to survive the trip in the ocean. Maybe they got a plastic bottle, because that stuff takes a long time to degrade, so that would be able to get out. And then maybe someone finds the journal and shuts it down. That felt, just the fact that they were just able to escape with swimming through the coral just felt a little bit too easy. But the film itself is pretty rough in places. I think ultimately I think it's a rental, because there is some stuff that it does really well, but there is some stuff that feels very rough, and stuff that just feels more unnatural than you would expect in like a supernatural type of film. So it's a Shyamalan movie. You probably want to see it before you see the twist, although if you watch this, you already know the twist, so it's not something that, I think it might be something you might be disappointed if you see it in theaters. If you wait for it to be a rental, you can kind of watch it and enjoy it and kind of see all the good things, but maybe you're not going to be as distracted with the bad things. So that's my take. I mean, ultimately, I think there's a lot that it does right, but then there's a lot that just feels very off. It feels like a rougher M. Night Shyamalan movie, which is weird because I would expect him to kind of hit his stride with this film, but there's just a lot of the film that just feels unnatural. And I know that's weird to say when you have a movie about a supernatural beach that can age people, but it feels like there's some of the dialogue, the delivery, some of the choices just don't feel like what normal people would, in this situation would make. And the ending does feel a little bit convenient, but that's my take. If you liked this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot to make sure all my new content goes straight to you. And thank you.